particularly psyched out of my mind about that one. It's every once in a while, like I've said before, every once in a while you get something good. I think I'll put a little extra work into that one. Super fun to play. What a great instrument we've picked with the guitar. A couple shout outs to Burroughs. Just got himself a new Les Paul. Very nice. The black silver burst. Shout out to Bailey, behave yourself. Martinez, please be good. And Evan, bring back your EC1000 and let me fix the darn thing, man. That pickup flopping around in there is hecka weak. So let's get that thing fixed. All right, so we're going to dive into this JCA 333 amp. Getting harder and harder to find, and I don't think JCA is going to make any more. So look around and grab one up. Should only run you about $250, maybe $300, but I would say grab one. All right, let's get into it. All right, there it is. The Jet City 333 JCA, Jet City Amplification. There's the front. Here's the back. We'll take all that stuff off, pop the bolts on the bottom. Oh, we're gonna give it a good cleaning today too. But we'll take a look inside and show you something you've never seen before. Here is the top side. There are actually 5 tubes in this ECC 83S tubes. There's 5 of them all along the front, and then the 2 EL84 tubes in the back. Output transformer, larger input transformer with call outs for the wires, which is nice. And you can use this 120 or 230 volts. Has a great effects loop. Let's get it turned around and we'll show you the business side of this. All right, check this out. Wow. Look at that simplicity. Everything's big, simple, plenty of room. That's why these are highly sought after as moddable amps. And the, I think it's Tone City. It's not Tone City. I always forget the website. But you look up JCA mods and the website comes up. And there's probably 60 different mods for these amplifiers. There's a Soldano mod. There's a Captain Crunch mod, there's a tight mod, there's a deep mod. There's tons of them, but I haven't been able. I wanted to perform the tight mod on this, but I haven't been able to get a hold of anybody over there. All right, so designed by Michael Soldano, 2010, and I'm not sure Jet City's going to make any more amps. They've been quiet for several years. All right, we plug your power in back here. It goes through the switch out this hole to the power transformer, back in from the transformer through this hole, up through these red wires here to this side of the circuit board. And we split ourselves up an AC bus to drive the filaments in the tubes, but we also have a little rectifier right here with these 4 diodes. Everything's labeled really nicely. There's a biasing knob right here, very big wheel. You could just do it by hand. I don't know what the biasing voltage should be, but there's also a test point right there, which is nice to see. There's also biasing here between the purple wires, right there where it says bias. So you could probably take it at that spot, or if you had a grounded probe, just use your test point, which is right there. But large resistors, high wattage resistors throughout, a couple of relays, relay, miscellaneous signal coupling capacitors, a little jumper right there with a 0 ring on it, meaning it has a ohms value of 0. Cool. Another rectifier, larger one right here with a nice big cap. So here we're dealing with some really super clean DC. And the cap is really nice and large. In audio, car audio, the larger your cap out in front of your speakers, the more bass you could produce quickly. The capacitors in car audio, you could stack up and collect so that when that big note came, big bass thump came, and you needed to hit those speakers hard with a lot of juice, signal juice, the capacitors were there to empty immediately. They were full of juice, you know, DC juice, and then boom, they would release that in a moment. I don't know if that's part of the factor in tube amps or not, but nice big cap, unusually large. Large traces with some reflow here at, I wouldn't say critical parts, but somebody thought of, you know, somebody put enough thought into it to, and I'm losing my focus, darn it, put enough thought into it to have reflow done in a couple of spots where you just beef up the trace. You just lay extra solder down on the trace for extra conductivity, an area where you might be pulling a little more current or it might be getting hot. You do some reflow. I used to have a buddy that was into car audio. He would take his amps apart, reflow all the traces. But these are nice and wide. Shouldn't have any problems with traces being too thin, getting overheated. All right, I don't really know what you're interested in here, but we have our input right here. So V1 and V2 are going to be most responsible for our gain stages. We have a crunch channel and a dirty channel, overdriven. And this amp doesn't have a clean, and I like that. It doesn't pretend to have a clean. It's got a crunch channel and an overdrive channel, and the crunch is filthy as is. And I don't think that, I think they're independent channels, unlike some of the Laneys I've tried, where the more the gain goes up, you can tell you're just turning gain up on the same channel. It's not voiced any differently. And with this amp, I really think you have separately voiced channels, two separate channels, instead of just gain stages on the same channel. That'll make sense to some. Others might not. You might say, what the heck are you talking about? All right, so V1, V2, and then down here we've got V3, and then V4 and V5. Now there's no reverb on this amp, but there is an effects loop, comes in right over here. So one of these tubes may very well be helping to drive that effects loop, which is nice. I believe it's a serial effects loop, which is also kind of nice. I'm partial to those. And so a couple of relays. Now the pots are on the small side, but you can wash them out. They have little openings on them. And I don't really care if a pot is large or small. I do like that. I do like a pot to be metal, and I like it to have a window in it so you can wash them out from time to time. All right, our output transformer leads here go to our different speaker outputs, so allowing us to match impedances properly so we don't damage our amp. And then we have all our capacitors glued down with either hot glue or silicone. It's not silicone, but probably some special sticky stuff. Got into another discussion with somebody recently about don't use hot glue in your amps, and I just don't think that's a concern. That glue gets, hot glue doesn't melt till around 400 degrees. And if your printed circuit board's getting 400 degrees hot, then you've got other problems. Yes, the tubes get very hot, tubes get hot, but even the elements, the filaments within the tube, glowing red, some guy on the gear page actually used a gun, infrared gun, and shot the inside. I forget what he reported, 500-600 degrees, but then the glass itself was much cooler already, and by the time you get to the socket and or the circuit board, you're nowhere near 300, 200 degrees. Water boils at 212 degrees, and that is searingly hot. Now, in some cases, I know you're going to have the amp upside down. Like if this was the case, all that heat from the tubes would be coming up through the board. But That's usually not the case in heads. In combos, oftentimes the tubes are mounted upside down. But still really not ever getting hot enough, I don't think, to do that kind of damage, unless you have a problem. PVs do get really hot, and Hughes and Kettner amps get really hot. All right, so there this thing is. It's cool. I'm not selling this. I'll keep trying to get the type mod from Soldano and see how that sounds, because it is a really killer amp. It's got a unique sound, and it's serviceable. I mean, you could look in here and get a good idea of what perhaps might be wrong. There's no integrated circuits or chips anywhere. Very nice. All right, cool.